Hi everyone, Christina here from Authentic Action Coaching. How is everybody doing? I hope you're well. Welcome to week 2 of Turbocharging Your Motivation with the 7 M's of motivation. If you caught the first series last Tuesday, this is the second installment. Last week was all about meaning. So being able to set really deep intentional meaning, making sure that your goals and habits that you're wanting to cultivate for 2025 are rooted in things that you really care about and are aligned with what you truly, truly value. So, as I mentioned last week, this series is all based around creating sustainable motivation. Because as we covered last week, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just click our fingers and be motivated all of the time? Sadly, that's not the case. And so I created this framework. It's something that I've been using. And I've been also using it as a framework with my coaching clients to be able to simplify what we're focusing on, and being able to cultivate a sense of drive. So when our motivation does wane, we can look at the 7 M's and actually remind ourselves, come back to a framework that is supportive yet flexible to remind you and to re-immerse you into the goals that you are working towards for this year. Also, as mentioned, if you're not focusing on the entire year, it's something which I definitely would champion. I, for one, am doing quarterly quests. I think so we don't get overwhelmed or procrastinate, to actually hone down your goals into a 12-week period or a quarterly period, then it just really helps you maintain that focus. And each quarter really should fill up into maybe a mission or a vision that you are working towards. So who's this for? Well, it's for anyone who wants to achieve a particular goal that they're really wanting to work towards. It's also for people who find themselves naturally procrastinating, maybe finding themselves in perfectionism loops, avoiding certain areas, things that are maybe slightly outside your comfort zone. This series, as I've said, is designed to actually give you a step-by-step model so you can fill in each section according to the goals that you're setting yourself, and be able to regularly dip in, be that daily, weekly, monthly, to check, right, where am I at? How am I doing? And the whole framework is designed to support you along that way, because there will inevitably be times where you lose motivation, where you get distracted, where you go off track. You can always use this framework to bring yourself back on track. That's the plan. So this week, I wanted to focus on mindset. So meaning was the first M in the 7, and mindset is the next M. And I'm sure, as you all are aware, mindset is something that is hugely important in achieving anything. One of the quotes that I keep going back to is, if you believe you can't or believe you can, you're right. So mindset is very, very important in cultivating that self-belief that you are wildly capable to achieve anything that you set your mind to. And along the way, it's natural that maybe your mindset will be interrupted or sabotaged by your stinking thinking, or the shitty committee that likes to be very loud, especially when you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and maybe trying something new. You'll find the volume of that voice tends to increase when we do that. So I always like to help people cultivate a plan for what to do when that voice does, start to bleat at us, so that we can actually refocus our minds on what we're doing and not live in the future, which is often anxiety ridden because we're always in chase mode, or focused on the past, something maybe we've tried before and it hasn't worked, or you've seen somebody else do something and you believe they were better than you. Often when we're past focused, it can be very draining of our energy because we are blocking ourselves off to possibility. And that's really what I want to get across today. So I'm going to be sharing 4 key steps on how to cultivate a motivated mindset. Okay, sound good? So with that in mind, I wanted to start off with really, okay, well, what is mindset? Obviously, it's the way in which we think. Yes, but underneath that, what drives the way in which we think? Well, often it's our beliefs and experiences about ourselves and about the world around us. And often we find ourselves running in autopilot thinking, not questioning maybe the biases that we have in our minds. And we may assume that everybody is thinking similar things to what we're thinking, as opposed to really being open to the fact that, well, we all think in different ways. Yes, there are commonalities, but essentially you could put 2 main camps, and obviously we're going to move through these 2 sections, but I specifically wanted to mention the 2 primary types of mindset. And this was very much come out of Carol Dweck's work around resilience and growth mindset. She did a ton of research and has written many books around the subject of whether we have a growth mindset, where we believe in change and possibility and growth, and that we can do anything that we set our minds to, or a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is really fixating on what we do know and what we have experienced, and maybe not being as open to possibility and the potential for us to learn something new. So when we naturally see we are working towards a goal, or it might be a collection of goals, the beliefs that we hold about how achievable those goals are key in setting whether we approach that from a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So when you are thinking about coming out of your comfort zone, so the comfort zone, lovely place, full of certainty, you know what you're doing, you feel quite confident in what you're doing until you start to stagnate. And it's actually ready, or often your brain and your system is telling you, hey, it's time to evolve and maybe stop revolving. So that's when we can step out into the learning zone. And really, when we think of the learning zone, we can think of, we're gonna have to, or life is calling us to start with a beginner's mind, because when you start anything, you are a beginner. You might have some associated skill sets that support the new thing that you're doing. Very good. But it may well be it's brand new to you. And so you will have to be open to the fact and forgive yourself for not knowing some things, and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is the biggest challenge of all. And the older we get, the more we realize that these are just reoccurring cycles. So fixed mindset, growth mindset. So the link to motivation and mindset is very much around the mindset we adopt directly impacts our ability to stay motivated and resilient, especially in the face of challenges. So when we are going through new territory and it's unknown and we maybe don't have much experience to refer back to, it's really important that we remind ourselves to cultivate this open mindset and to be compassionate with ourselves that we are learning something new, or we are putting ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. That's totally natural. So a framework that I use before I lead into the 4 fundamental ways of cultivating this sustainable, motivational mindset, is the energy leadership model. So for those of you who don't know, I am a master practitioner in energy leadership. And the model is based around these 7 levels of energy or consciousness. And what they really focus on is the way in which we think creates how we feel, and that hugely influences our behavior. So the model itself and the style of coaching that we use for energy leadership is to try and bring awareness to the way that we're thinking, the way that we're feeling, and the actions that we're taking. Because when we are more aware of what's going on, so we observe ourselves. I often talk about almost zooming out and watching what you're doing from afar with compassionate curiosity, not one of judgment, which is challenging within itself. But no, to say that I'm experiencing or thinking a certain thing, that's interesting. So it's almost you become your own observer, because you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, you are the part of you that is experiencing these things. And with conscious awareness, we can notice patterns and, importantly, interrupt those patterns when they're not serving us. So what are these 7 levels of energy? Well, I want you to imagine fundamentally a funnel. And at the bottom of this funnel is a very fixed, closed mindset. So we've all experienced it where we're feeling fearful, where we're feeling low energy, and we just maybe want to just pull the quilt back over our heads of a morning. We've all felt that way. So that's at the very bottom of this funnel, dense energy that feels heavy, cumbersome, and draining. And at the top of the funnel, I want you to think about more light, open, curious mindset, where we are not fixated on any problems. No, we are fully open to the possibility. You could say that we are in high trust when we're up in this level mindset, level 7, and we are very low trust when we're down in the bottom of the funnel. So I'm just going to create that picture in your mind. Heavy energy down at the bottom of the funnel, moving up to light energy at the top. And I'm going to quickly whiz through the 7 levels and how they pertain to our motivation. For anyone who's seen me speak, I often use these glasses to illustrate my points. I do that because I want to add a little bit of humor into what we're doing, because personal development and psychology can, in my experience, sometimes feel a little dry. So these are a visual representation of each level of energy, each type of mindset that we experience as human beings. But the importance here is that we can change our lenses. So let's get going. I'll take my lenses I can actually see out of. So these are my level 1 lenses. Yes, they're blue, and if you can't see, they are handcuffs. So this illustrates kind of like a victim mindset. What do I mean by that? I mean when we feel powerless, helpless. This is where we lack the most motivation. This is where we believe that we can't do something, that we're not good enough, and that everybody else is better than we are. And we may believe or tell ourselves that it's futile to even try. Like, what's the point? We've all experienced this, which is a totally natural part of being human. And really, it is a signal often to say, right, I maybe need to refuel myself to be able to shift out of this victim mindset where I'm focusing on everything that's maybe going wrong, as opposed to everything that could go right if we only try. So here we might believe that, well, I want to wait until I feel motivated. And we know we can be waiting a rather long time for that to happen, because unfortunately it doesn't often just hit us naturally. So level 1 energy is very much heavy, dark energy. When we're not consciously aware of it, we can stay here, and that's when we can start to go down the downward spiral and become depressed, anxious, and very demotivated, and maybe not even function as human beings. So that's level 1. Let's go up. Level 2. Level 2 is all about conflict, as my glasses suggest. Level 2. This is when we experience anger, frustration, and a lack of motivation because we're just so fired up. Now, sometimes we can feel motivated when we get fired up. You think of activist energy when you are maybe fighting against something that is an injustice. Yeah, it's powerful energy, it's powerful mindset, but it's just not very sustainable. So in short bursts, yes, sometimes this level 2 lens of looking at yourself and your situation is required. But what we don't want to do is get stuck in this level of energy, because it is very draining. Imagine driving your vehicle around with the accelerator pedal full on, high revs. You're going to burn through your fuel, and you're maybe not going to get very far very fast. So in terms of motivation, yes, short bursts can be powerful, kicking yourself up the bum to get to the gym, forcing yourself to go on and do a live, maybe if you're not if you're a bit nervous or getting up to speak. It's got a place, but we don't want to live here, because when we live here, like I say, it can be very, very draining. So level 2 is about bringing awareness to feeling anger in our bodies, saying angry things to ourselves or to other people around us. And so we tend to still be in a very closed mindset and a high judgmental mindset when we look through this lens of consciousness. So that is level 2. Level 3, we're moving up the funnel. So level 1, powerlessness. Level 2, I've got the power, I'm going to exert it over everybody else because I'm right and you're wrong. Level 3, this is the level of responsibility, of cooperation. So as you can see, they're margarita glasses. Some years ago, I identified that I lived a lot of my life in level 3. What do I mean by that? Well, I sat on the fence, you could argue. I tolerated behaviour from others around me, and probably myself, without really doing much about it. So I would brush things under the carpet because I was too busy to deal with them. So here, our motivation is starting to rise, right? Because we can push through things. This is our coping mechanism. So when we practice our ability to push through challenges, we can, foster some type of motivation. We can keep moving through things, even if things aren't exactly the way that we want it. And our coping mechanisms that we then, reach for might be a drink at the end of the day. It might be some comfort eating. It might be some people pleasing. You name your vice as a coping mechanism. It's whatever you need to fuel yourself forward. So here we're coming out of this catabolic range of seeing ourselves and our goals and those around us. And we're going slowly up into more open energy. So shifting out of fixed mindset into more of an open and curious mindset. So you will notice when you're in level 3, when you are tolerating and you're saying, oh, well, the better the devil you know. And you might be really compromising yourself about a goal that you're working on to say, oh, well, I'll maybe do it tomorrow. Yeah, so you can sense a bit of procrastination here, that you can put things off and you can rationalize anything, and you can deceive yourself. This is what we do. So level 3 is very much about sitting on the fence. Level 4 is all about others around us. So this is about being of service. So this is the way that we think around being compassionate with others. So very much caring, wanting to motivate others, being very outward looking and to be of service to help others. So the motivation here might be to make a difference to others. If you are a parent, a friend, a manager, a business owner with staff, it may well be that you want everybody to be fully charged and motivated. So your focus can be very outward, which is a beautiful thing to have. Compassion and empathy are keys to emotional intelligence. However, you can get into sticky problems when unconsciously you find yourself drifting into people pleasing, drifting into a place of getting sucked into other people's drama. Now, interestingly, recently, if you don't already follow Mel Robbins, who is an American podcaster and coach, she just released a book, Let Them. And the message really there is to have boundaries. And if people want to squabble, so if people in your team or in your immediate vicinity are acting any of the lower levels of energy that we just talked about, so feeling like they're powerless, angry, rationalizing things away, and you're finding yourself getting a little bit triggered, in some instances, what we want to try and do is to remind ourselves that we can't fix anyone, that we can only really focus on ourselves. So this is the warning flag looking through this lens. Yes, being of service is very motivating for many of us. It starts being demotivating when we start like we're giving a lot out and not getting a lot back. And we can start to maybe distract ourselves away from meaningful goals that we've set because we are too busy helping other people with their goals. So it's all about finding a balance. So let's continue up. Level 4 lens, being of service. These are my Eltons, level 5. And when we think about motivation through the lens of level 5, so remember, this is how you are perceiving yourself and the world around you in a situation. And oftentimes when we experience this level of energy, it's all about opportunity. So when we look through this lens through motivation, this is being highly motivated. So again, we're in the top end of the funnel and we are all about ideas, solutions, being motivated by the possibilities. And even when something goes wrong, we can view this as, oh, plot twist. Oh, didn't see that coming. I wonder what's going to shake out of this. So we're less bothered and influenced by other people, particularly, certainly people who are maybe wanting to focus on the problem, because here we can be all about the possibility and the solution of doing something. So I often identify, I coach many female business owners with ADHD. And here is where I often see entrepreneurship, full of ideas, expansive possibility, very, very motivating energy to drive us through a lot of challenges, and that comfort, learning, fear zone to our growth zone. It's fundamental. What we need to be able to do is harness that energy so we don't fly off and get lost, that we can actually ground ourselves to be able to follow through and focus to deliver some of these ideas that we're doing. And that is often the challenge with attention deficit. So level 5, as I say, all about ideas, all about collaboration, all about opportunities, high energy. Level 6. These are top hats. Imagine magic top hats. This is all about intuition and creativity and being motivated by a shared value system, a shared motivation. So if you're part of a community, for example, or a team that are working towards a collective goal and it aligns with all of your individual values, then that's what we would call intrinsic motivation. That it's not about what you're going to get extrinsically, like the money, the prestige of doing a thing. No, this is a deeply meaningful goal that kind of feeds your soul. So when we experience motivation here, we can access flow state very easily. So here we're energized, we're motivated, but we're calm and we're focused. So this is often where I help people to be able to cultivate a mindset, but also using somatic and breath work to be able to access greater lengths of time in this creative flow state, because this is where the real effortless motivation happens. And so if we can spend a little bit longer in these levels of energy, then we actually work a lot more efficiently. So level 7 is the top of the funnel, the very top of the funnel. And there are no lenses in level 7. And the reason for that is really it's the highest level of consciousness awareness. It's the highest level of, being able to see everything for what it is, that it's just all an experience. And none of it is intrinsically good or bad. It just is. And it is our way of navigating that way of thinking, way of experiencing life that allows us to cultivate intrinsically that motivation by accepting that, things aren't always going to go my way. And sometimes I'm going to fall and I'm going to experience all of these lovely levels of energy. But the more I can bring conscious awareness to it, the more I can observe myself and catch myself being and thinking in a certain way that maybe isn't serving me, then there are tools that you can do to actually shift your mindset. And I talk a lot about this in my Fuel program and my Rise and Thrive programs, to be able to have a set of bespoke tools that are tailored for you, that are your go-to, to be able to shift into any different way of thinking, different way of feeling, and different way of behaving. So we're actually creating new neural pathways and essentially developing neuroplasticity so that we can create more of this open mindset rather than a default fixed mindset, because we do ping back there. So I'll share with you these 4 awareness keys, if you like. And this is all about how we maintain motivation, or how we access it when we have lost it. And so the very first one is awareness is key. Because if we're not aware, then we can't change anything. When you're sat inside the when you're sat inside the jar, you can't read the label. So we all know that when we can't see the woods for the trees, we feel lost. We can feel uncertain. And often we can allow these heavier emotions take us over. So we can start to believe that things aren't going our way, and we can believe stories about ourselves and reinforce those stories about ourselves. So it just further and further diminishes our stories that we tell ourselves. So that leads me on to 2 questions you can ask yourself. So the first being, what is the story I'm telling myself? Yeah. So if you can hear yourself saying, oh, well, I can't do that, or I'll never be able to do that, then I want you to question that thought and kind of say, well, is that true? What's the story? And can I challenge it? Often as well, I think of the THINK acronym. Is that thought true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary to the goal that I'm working on right now? Is it kind? Is it kind to me? Is it actually filling me up? And if not, if the answer to those 4 questions are no, then guess what? We can pick another thought. So that's when we ask ourselves the second question, which is, what is one small way I can shift my perspective? And that's why I've shared these glasses with you. It's becoming aware of what glasses am I wearing? What lens am I looking through? And what story is that influencing me to tell myself? And how is that affecting my motivation levels? So the next motivational booster from mindset is to reframe challenges as opportunities. How do we do that then? Well, it's a practice. It's not, unfortunately, something that we can just flick a switch. But this is about seeing something as hard, kind of like resistance training. So when we go to the gym and we're wanting to strengthen a muscle, then we need to do the reps, right? And it's resistance training because we are lifting something heavy. So in doing so, we are tearing the muscle fibers so that they grow. You can apply that very same concept to us going towards something that we want to achieve. Knowing and remembering, well, hold on, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging. So we can actually support ourselves in those times of challenge and discomfort, knowing that, well, you know what, this is going to be challenging right now, but I can see that on the other end of it, on the other side of that fear, is growth. It is experience. And we know that because we can know when we reflect back just how much we've learned, how far we've come. And in my experience, we don't do that often enough. So that's other thing that we'll include over these 7 weeks of our 7 M's is to build in some reflection time regularly. So you can actually recognize how far you've come, because that in itself is motivating, because you're cultivating a practice that fast becomes your identity. So really reframing anything as if something is happening to you that is a bit depleting, disappointing, frustrating even, to even just ask yourself that question, what have I learned from this? What has it strengthened in me? And what is it strengthening in me? We can't always do that in the moment, but it's remembering that those tools are there so you can ask yourself to shift out of this focus, that you're not focused on the problem and what you failed at. No, you are focusing more with a level 5 lens of the opportunity of what it's strengthened in you. Is it being a stepping stone for your next step on the path towards your achieving your goal? So the third booster is shifting your energy. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we just talked about coming away from a mindset, a way of thinking, into another way of thinking. My experience, the quickest way we can do that is using our breath. So your breath is the remote control to your central nervous system. And by practicing different kinds of breath work, you can actually shift out of this heavy energy where we tend to have maybe been sat down for a long period of time. Or maybe we're sat in not a great position, and so we're all a bit hunched over and stagnating physically. Sometimes even just the movement of being able to kind of sit up straight, engage your diaphragm in your breathing, can actually open up and shift out of this fixed way of, focusing on problems into more expansion. So reminding yourself, hey, I'm the whole sky. I've got possibilities that I can't even see yet. So using your breath is actually instructing your central nervous system to shift out of survival mode that we all know is fight or flight into safe and social, or rest and digest, which is when we are calm in our central nervous system, we are more likely to get into equilibrium, which means we are more likely to open up to possibility and to be able to cultivate that resourceful resilience rather than white knuckle everything, and instead take these challenges in our stride. So shifting your energy, specifically, yes, there's tons of ways you can do it, but I would definitely invite you to explore more breath work. I am going to be putting on some sessions in Newcastle in person. So if you're curious to explore more breathwork, then do let me know, or watch my page, and you can follow me for when all of those updates are going to happen. So the fourth mindset booster is to set anabolic intentions. What the hell does that mean? So like we say, rather than closed or fixed mindset, we can be more in an open mindset. Anabolic is more constructive growth energy. So it's more about movement. And intentions is being able to direct our focus. Yeah. So where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if I'm focusing on my problem and what I can't do and what's gone wrong, guess what? All of my energy is going to feel heavy and drained and closed. But if I focus on what's going right and how to get into flow state, then actually I can, in my mind and body, start to feel lighter, more expansive, maybe even have a sense of fun, creativity, flow. All of those things actually help us think in a way that is more constructive and more motivating in itself. So setting an intention first thing in the morning, for example. So today I'm going to approach every challenge with compassionate curiosity, even just that intention. Or today I am going to remove distractions and I'm going to get into focused flow by doing this main task that I want to do. Pick your intention, obviously, with whatever you've got on that day, but make sure that you are setting it clearly as a possibility. And maybe it's something that you can come back to remind yourself. Put a reminder in your phone, ping it up. This is your intention you set today. Are you still aligned with it? Are you still thinking in those ways? So to recap, and then I'll sign off. The 4 boosters are: awareness is key. Observe yourself, observe the way that you're thinking. It is only then that you can shift it. Number 2 is to reframe challenges as opportunities, because like we're muscle building in the gym, we have to start to tear down the muscle. We have to become uncomfortable for a time to then get to comfortable. It's riding the wave, and it's how we cultivate resourced resilience. So reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. We grow through what we go through. The 3rd is to shift our energy. So usually using, yes, there is cognitive behavioral therapy type reframing you can do, but the one I specifically mentioned was around your breath. So bringing awareness to your breath and be able to shift your energy just by changing the way that you breathe to maybe come out of survival into more of a rest and digest and just let go with whatever doesn't serve you. And the 4th and final one is to set an anabolic intention. So first thing in the morning, set a clear goal of how you're going to show up today, and check back in with yourself as a reminder, as and when, so you can continue to do that. So I would love to know your key takeaways. If you are watching this live, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you are watching this on replay and you are curious to get your hands on the 7 M's guide, then message me directly and I will send you that free PDF that notes down all of the 7 M's and actually gives you instructions on how to set each M. So we can actually together, collectively and individually, create more of a sustainable way of being motivated. And when we lose that motivation, we have tools at our fingertips to be able to cultivate that motivation once more. So that's why there's 7 of them. Tune in to the 3rd M for next week. And I will, I'll enjoy chatting to you then. Like I say, any comments, if you are watching this and you think that somebody would gain benefit, then please do share it with them. Here's to creating more sustainable, resourced resilience and success that doesn't involve us feeling exhausted and burned out, because that's what it's all about. Thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll catch you next week.